Right, during the 4th of July flooding, many of us continued throughout the weekend to hold out hope for news of survivors. I know I personally regularly checked my phone, hoping to see those words found.
Yeah.
On Sunday, July 6th, a Facebook Live feed from an on-the-ground volunteer reported 2 girls rescued 27 feet up in a tree near Comfort, Texas, and that quickly spread. First on Facebook, then local and national outlets started to also report this news. But by Monday, we would all know the story was not true. And joining us now to discuss how misinformation spreads and what we can do about it is Kelly McBride, the Senior Vice President and Chair of Craig Newmark Center for Ethics and Leadership of the Poynter Institute. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
If you have questions, comments, thoughts you want to share with Kelly, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Kelly, I guess where I would start with all of this is the way this particular story started. To pretty much most consumers of social media out there, it would seem as though this was factual.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information on social media that seems like it's factual. And most of it is inconsequential, right? Because when it turns out not to be factual or to be an exaggeration or to be a conglomeration of stories, not a single story, there's no actual harm done to us. But in this case, there was harm done. And that's why we're paying attention to it. Every day, if you are on social media, you are exposed to information that is not true. This particular one hurts because we all wanted it to be true so bad.
And it's also layered, Kelly, I feel like it started on social media. And then for people that would say, oh my gosh, might be a little skeptical, they went to a local news outlet. And so help us understand how professional journalists verify their sources so we kind of have a better idea of that as well.
Sure, and especially in a scenario like this, right? And I have supervised journalists who have gone out and covered disasters, and I have been on the ground reporter covering disasters many, many times. And those journalists are trained to every single person that they interview to get their name and to ask them for the spelling of their name. And when you ask somebody, how do you spell your name? That sort of puts you on notice as a source that like, oh, my name may show up in their report. My name may be attached to this piece of information. And so that ends up being a accountability measure. The other thing that you do is you ask them for a phone number or some way that you could get a hold of them in case you want to contact them again. And that's really important in disasters because like this one, there's going to be a lot of recreation of who knew what when, and people are going to be trying to draw maps and timestamp things. And so many journalists are going to want to get back in touch with the people that they talked to because they're going to want more information in order to build out that recreation.
Hi, it's Frank Billingsley. Thanks so much for being here. So I would add to that, see if you agree, where's the picture? Because this reporter had some self-described eyewitnesses to this. You can get their name from these eyewitnesses and their phone number, as you say. But how does someone, if you're talking to several supposed eyewitnesses to this event, how does someone not have a cell phone picture of what went down, if not a video?
Exactly. And the other thing that a reporter will do is they'll take a picture of every individual.
Sure.
And that just helps you because when you get back and you're trying to sort through all your notes, it just helps you to have that visual and that timestamp. A lot of times you take a picture of the person and then a picture of their name in your notebook so you can remember who they are. But yeah, you're asking them for any documentation that they have, text messages that they might have shared with people, images, photos, or videos that they took. And so, yeah, the fact that that there was no image of this, also the fact that when you read that story that was in a newspaper or a news organ, not a newspaper, a news outlet. When you read that story, there are a couple things about it that I noticed right away. And one is there was not one named source, not even a named agency. And so that is, as a news consumer, that tells me that, oh, maybe maybe they don't have this nailed down. The second thing is there were no other mainstream news organizations reporting it, even after like an hour or two. And what I know about news is for a story that good, the
Everybody
Associated
wants it.
Press,
Yeah.
all the television stations, they're going to nail it down. And I've talked to some people from the public media network in San Antonio, and they said they really wanted it to be true. They actually had built out a shell of a story so that they could publish it and report it. But when they couldn't find a source to verify it, then they knew that there was a problem with the story, and so they never published it.
And I'm guilty of it. I watched the Facebook Live. I had a friend who reposted it. As I was watching it Sunday, I sent it to our director of content, one of our directors here of talk shows, and I said, Jack, we got to have this guy on. Oh my gosh. And then slowly Jack and I started going, looking at this and being like, okay, well, let's wait. Let's give it some time before we are going to do that. That
and I
verification.
think that's part of the issue here that we're talking about is that individuals do react to these things. We see something, we hear a story, we share a story, we want to. Journalists are supposed to be trained to go that step further, that they are going to verify it. It's perfectly understandable that a friend of yours saw this story and passes it along on Facebook. It's in a moment. So much was happening so quickly. So many people were looking for stories and reporting things and sharing things. But we have to hold our journalists to a higher standard, especially in today's day and age.
Which, Kelly, question for you, do really quickly, and I want you to comment on that. But I also, to Ernie's point, is that just the day and age we're in, social media?
Well, every single piece of information that you see on social media is designed to manipulate you. And manipulate you by making you feel something. It might make you feel angry. It might make you feel happy. It might make you feel like you want to buy something because you really need it, right? But that is how social media is designed to manipulate you. And so as a news consumer, as somebody who's trying to get information so that you can be informed and live your life better and have actual real facts, it's really important to become aware of that manipulation, what that emotional twist is that you're feeling, and then to look at the facts behind it. Because if you can start to recognize that, like, oh, the whole reason that many of these posts exist is just to get some sort of rise out of me, that's how the algorithms work, that's how the platforms work, and that's how many of the people who make money on social media make their money, then you can become a little bit more savvy about finding the good information, the information that's really valuable because it's true, and not because somebody has distorted it or twisted it in order to further their own causes.
Do we know, let me just ask this really quickly, do we know the initial motivation of the first telling of this story? Was it just someone with misinformation, or was it someone trying to gather attention?
Clickbait.
Yeah.
So we at Poynter have had a couple of people researching this, and we can find two initial versions of the story, and we can't tell which one came first. But we believe that there was a very disreputable news, not a news site, a website that traffics in fake information. It's actually not even located in this country. It's located in a different country. So we believe that was the first origin of it. And then what we think happened was a lot of people saw that and started believing that they either had it firsthand because they were part of the search and rescue operation, or they heard people talking about it who had seen it. And it just became a game of telephone after that until the second news organization, which was the local news organization that published it, ended up publishing it. But go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, we have a lot of people at Poynter that spend a lot of time studying disinformation and tracking down disinformation. And in any natural disaster, there is more and more disinformation. And it's usually started by these websites that are just trying to get traffic, right? They don't even mean to be malicious. They just know that they can that they can make money by getting eyeballs, right? Every time there's a hurricane, there's sharks in the street, or if there's flooding in New York, there's sharks in the subway, right? It's always these outside rampant spreaders of disinformation who start these posts, but then well-meaning people share them with their friends and family, and that's how they gain traction.
You are listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Kelly McBride from the Poynter Institute. You can join the conversation with questions at 713-440-8870.
So, Shelley, I was going to say, when I did my share of street reporting and you found something like this going on, you went to an authority for confirmation. You found a sheriff or a government official or somebody that was more than a self-described eyewitness. I don't think that was in this story, but to a broader point, how do you know as a reporter or reading a story if even that authority figure is learning true information? Because even they are getting bad stuff these days and putting it out there.
Yeah, I mean, one is you ask them how they know what they know. Did you see it? Do you have firsthand evidence of it? There have been other notorious bad information stories that came from officials who were reporting it secondhand, and the reporter didn't ask that question. And so, yeah, as a journalist, you ask them, do you know about the girls in the tree? How do you know about the girls in the tree? Did you see it? Did you see any evidence of it? Can you name one person who saw it? Right? And you press them on how they know what they know. I was a former police reporter, and law enforcement actually, because of the nature of their jobs, on the first pass, they actually do get a decent amount of information wrong. Sometimes it's because of the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's because of the perspective that they're bringing. But I learned, even when I was looking at police reports, that I had to verify every single piece of information because just because it's written down doesn't mean that it's actually true.
One thing that I'm sure some that are listening are curious about. So the story that they reported wasn't correct. Address the harm that comes from a situation like this, where a story like this gains traction, for folks that are like, it was wrong. It's so much more than that. Yeah.
I mean, for one, you have the parents of 27 children who are dead. And, some of those parents, those children have not been recovered. And so the hope that it created in those parents is particularly cruel and devastating. But the second thing, the broader damage that it does, is to our ability as a community to trust reliable information providers. Because when you believe something and then find out that it's not true, you actually are less likely to trust information that is true. And we all know about news fatigue. We all know how weary we become trying to sort through what's actually happening, what might happen, and what didn't happen, but somebody is trying to make us believe did happen. We're all trying to sort through complicated information these days. And there are a lot of officials and people with power who are confusing things. So as a news consumer, we have a really hard job already. And then when something like this happens, it just really further erodes the foundations of believing anything. And the problem, if we get to a position in our country, in our communities, where we don't believe anything, where we can't trust any information, then democracy can't actually function, right? We can't even function as communities, as neighborhoods, or as groups of people. And so, that sounds alarmist, but every time something like this happens, we're one step closer to that becoming a reality.
Well, we've all heard, if we can't trust our elections, then we're doomed.
Our number here, 713.
And people don't trust, right? People, because so many people have questioned our election process, even though our election process in this country is one of the most secure and solid processes in the world. if people don't trust it, then it doesn't matter how secure it is,
Yeah.
because
That's where it starts, though.
because they don't believe the truth. Yeah.
713-440-8870. We're talking about the dissemination of false information, especially during a time of tragedy. On the line right now, Sam from Sugarland has a question. Sam, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, sir. I'm trying to say that, right now the news outlets and papers are competing for furious pace of reporting. As soon as something happens, they want to report it immediately. And it is very clear that they're not allowing the news and the events to percolate.
Sam, thank you for that. It seems as though, to rephrase what Sam is talking about, it's the speed to get your story out first has harmed the accuracy and the validity of reporting. Is that accurate to say?
In some cases, yes. Although, I can name a dozen newsrooms that did not report that story because they couldn't verify it, even though they really wanted to be first. So most professional newsrooms have a process for verifying information and a system for making sure that nothing slips through. And so he's not wrong that journalists are all competing to be first, and that being first has a business advantage, and that sometimes information is reported that is incomplete. But in this case, many, many, many newsrooms did not bite on this particular one.
And I do want to clarify. I know earlier I was like, I sent this to. We did not report on this story.
Oh, right.
Number one, and I, as somebody who has worked in commercial news, in a commercial newsroom, as well as a public media newsroom, that's something that I learned right here on public media is that we pause.
Well, our philosophy in news was always get it first, but get it right. Mm-hmm. And you can't forget the get it right part. And I think I know what you're talking about is in terms of scanner traffic, that assignment editors will hear scanner traffic, but before jumping on it, they'll verify it as true before you start sending someone to cover scanner traffic.
Yeah.
Am
I right on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, reporting stuff off the scanner is
but it's been done. It's been done, and I've known people that have been fired because they got it wrong that way. Mm-hmm. So they thought, well, I heard it on the scanner. I mean, that was sort of pre-social media. I'm talking like 90s and early 2000s. But I heard it on the scanner, so it must be true. And now you see it on social media, so it must be true. And now as we got one comment, and now other Congress people are putting it out there as true, and you can't even believe your own Congress people because they're not verifying the information.
Kelly, before we let you...
And they have political motivations, right? They have political motivations to get in front of an audience and to get their own spin on information. Politicians are part of the problem these days.
Kelly, before we let you go, oftentimes when I would see a story online, I would go to like Snopes.com to verify whether it's true or not. Where should people go when they're hearing these stories? Where are some of the best sources to have fact-checking happening in real time?
Well, I mean, PolitiFact, which is associated with the Poynter Institute, is one of my favorite places. And for many of these widely spread pieces of misinformation, PolitiFact will have done a fact check on it. I think the other thing that you can do as a news consumer is try and triangulate your sources, right? So if you see something and it's reported from newsroom X, what are 3 other regular sources that you get information from? It can be CNN, it can be the Wall Street Journal, it can be the New York Times, it can be the BBC, but what are other places that you get information? And go look on their websites and see if they're reporting it. Because if you can see different independent newsrooms reporting the same thing, that's usually a pretty good indication that they have independently verified it.
Hopefully.
Kelly McBride is the Senior Vice President and Chair of Craig Newmark Center for Ethics and Leadership of the Poynter Institute. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.